Back before I was a movie star, straight off of the farm, I had a picture of another man's wife tattooed on my arm, with a pack of Camel cigarettes in the sleeve of my t-shirt. I'm headed out to Hollywood just to have my feelings hurt. That town will make you crazy, just get a little time. You'll be walking round in circles down at Hollywood and Vine.
Here we are, another episode of the If podcast coming to you. We are wrapping the week up, and I'm very thrilled to have Tim Rutili here from Califone and, ex-Red Meat. Both formed in Chicago, right, Tim? But now you are no longer in Chicago. You live where the sun shines all day, every day.
Not really. I mean, I live in California, but I live in the mountains where last week we got snowed in.
Oh, yeah.
And the sun is shining.
Okay. Nature's vicious little trick, right? When you think, oh, the snow's all over, and then it comes back. It has its revenge.
March it snows.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have snow probably right until April here in Quebec.
Okay.
We love to hate snow. I'll leave it at that. It's been a long winter, we'll say that as well. And we're really excited to kind of start to feel warmth of any kind.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, Tim, my first question, I love to kind of revisit how you got to where you are today, musically, with your music. And I always like to ask, like, what were some of your big points in your career that changed the trajectory of where you were going? Do you have some of those moments that you could share with us where it kind of something happened, an experience or an encounter, and it changed the direction of your musical journey so far?
With the Red Meat, it was probably like listening to Can, listening to like those Electric Miles Davis records.
Right.
That changed us all and made us kind of want to play like that, even though we didn't really have the chops to do that.
Okay.
But it made us do some things differently and not in the normal rock band way. Using a computer.
Right.
Also changed what we were doing. That was around the last Red Meat record that we made, which is called There's a Star Above the Manger Tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That was where we used sampler and computer more. That changed everything.
Right.
Yeah, there's been a few spots like that.
Yeah.
Califone making room sound sort of set a template for us.
Right.
That we found while making that record.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I had this conversation with David Lowery from Cracker and Campervan a while ago, and we got into a little bit of his formula. And formula in the sense where they've stumbled upon a way that he knew how he would construct songs,
Right.
How they would start, how he would transition them, and he followed that formula, he said, for most of the songs that he wrote. Do you feel a similar sense to that with the Califone, discography that, like, and I hate saying formula because it sounds like, yeah, we just filled the formula in and we just made, like, it's not as simple as that, but that there was a structure that you tended to follow when you go about the writing process.
Sometimes it seems like there's a few different formulas. One is sort of what feels natural, songwriting and a rhythm that feels natural and a way to approach melody that feels natural. And another way is just really going towards what does not feel natural. And that's usually a challenge, but sometimes that's how you make progress.
Right.
with the way we make records is like going into something that really doesn't feel comfortable. Another way we do things is sometimes we get into a room and play and improvise, and
Mm,
then take the pieces and slice and dice and loop and build songs that way. Like that
yeah,
happens too.
that's cool. And when you say that, you just start off with, a couple of chords and then just let inspiration take its course. But
Sometimes
all
start
of
out
that
with
is
nothing, start with nothing.
okay. Like, what would be an example of the nothing that you would start with? Like,
Someone's making a sound and
right,
the sound is intriguing. Other people sort of jump on.
mm,
Sometimes it's a rhythm
right,
and sometimes it's just like maybe a loop that I would make at home. It's anything.
right, right. And I imagine that you must be a good gatherer of sounds and loops and just storing them away because you never know, like when you might want to pull it back up to incorporate into a song.
It seems like there are periods of collecting and gathering things and words and sounds and pieces.
Right,
And then there's like usually a long period of like constructing and editing out of that.
right, right. And I had read a story too that you had brought your guitar outside because there was a hum or a dissonant that was out there, and you tuned your guitar to that key, and that kind of like inspired, like those are the kinds of things you're talking about as another example.
Yeah, I was in Austin, Texas, making a record with my friend Craig Ross. Um, and we were making a record that was turning out to be songs.
Okay.
And yeah, it was hot. And whenever I went outside, it was like this sound
Mm,
that was just a combination of all the neighbors' air conditioners. So
mm.
yeah, I heard melody in that. I heard melody and tone in that, and tuned the guitar to it. And then we went in and just made some stuff up out of those tunings, and that became a record called "Guitars Tuned to Air Conditioners," which that's basically what it is.
It's such a great idea to have, and like opening doors to unknown places, really. I mean, who
I
would
mean,
ever
there's
thought to do that?
tonality in everything. In everything, there's tonality, I think.
Right, right. That's so cool. And when you were first started writing songs, like what were your first songs that you wrote as an artist that you actually, put down on tape? Was that with Red Meat, or did you have stuff prior to that you had been recording?
I had some bands before that that were
Mhm.
pretty terrible, and yeah, it was just trial and it feels like it still is trial and error. It's like
Mhm.
I don't know when I started liking what I was doing,
Yeah.
um, but it might have been a couple albums into Red Meat, you
Okay.
know?
Right. Yeah, I read too that you don't like listening back. Like once the record's packaged, it's like, thank you. Archive, put that in the files, and like it's on to the next. Like you don't spend a lot of time dwelling on past recordings and listening
No,
and listening back. And is that just
no.
because of the sheer amount of the production level, that the saturation that you get just through putting a record out?
Um, I don't know. I think I don't know why. I
Mm,
just don't feel usually like listening to what I just made.
mm,
And sometimes you have to go back to learn a song if you're going to play it at a show. Um, and sometimes playing those old songs at shows, they have their own life,
mm,
which
mm.
feels completely, it might not sound completely different, but to me, it feels completely different than the recording.
Right,
And I'd
right,
rather not imitate a recording. I'd rather the song be a living thing that we're all sort of playing.
right, right. Like, is it hard sometimes because of the experimentation and the playfulness when you're going about putting songs together and records together that reproducing it is almost impossible, because you're trying stuff that might be hard to reproduce on stage. Um, is that some of the issues as well? Like, because the
Yeah,
songs will have so many different textures and layers that to recreate it, there's no point. Let's just play it the way that we'll play it live.
that's exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
interesting. What are some of those happy accidents that have happened in the studio for you with the experimenting that you do, that just would never be able to be recreated, but happened somehow together with people and the songs and the, a buzz, or I heard that you were dragging cinder blocks across floors, and like where do you find these inspirations, and what are some of those happy accidents that happened throughout
Sometimes
all
it's
of your recording?
unhappy. Sometimes it's taking an unhappy accident and
Right?
just digging into it
Okay.
and making it work. Sometimes it feels like fighting with sounds.
Hmm.
Um, but there's something on. We just put out a record called The Villager's Companion, and there's a song on there that's called A Blood Red Corduroy Three-Piece Suit. And it's like a long one. And I was at our bass player, Brad, is a great recording engineer as well. He's a great musician. He's a great recording engineer. And when you go to his place, it's like a party,
Hmm.
which I'm not good at. And then it's always like a jam. So he's got it mic'd up. And I remember that day it was raining. He had mics outside recording rain.
Hmm.
His neighbor's building makes a terrible sound. They put some ventilation thing outside that is terrible. So one mic was outside catching the rain and the sound. Uh, and we had sort of workstations that we were wandering around. We recorded a couple of hours of just noise and stuff. And then he sat at the piano. And then I was like, okay, did we just have fun today? Felt kind of fun. And then I ended up taking it home, editing it into the shape of that song,
Hmm.
and then bringing it back and then just building and building and building this thing.
Wow. Wow.
So that was how that one came about. And there's no way that anybody would have written that, like sat
Yeah.
down with the intention to make that. That
Right.
only came out of like, uh, this is the environment we're in. Our brains are somewhat empty right now. We're not really thinking. We're just sort of like trying to work with every situation that we have going on in this place.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what came out. It was like yeah, I remember editing the next day and things sort of made a little bit of sense, but it's never anything that I would have naturally structured, and I don't think Brad would have naturally structured it that way either.
Okay. Interesting. I love that. I'm gonna listen to that again more closely. Somebody said listen to all these songs with headphones on, and then you'll hear all of those, the multiple levels of everything going on, which I find pretty fascinating. Um, so what is your process though? Like, what's your standard process for putting a song together? Um, and maybe I'll elaborate a bit. Does it come from those kinds of like just things happen and then you gather this, recording through a jam or through coming together with musicians? Or do you sit and write songs sometimes, with your guitar or piano, and then bring them in? Like what tends to be your approach when you're writing songs?
Well, on Villagers, I wrote songs and I demoed them and then rewrote them and then threw them away and wrote some more. Like I really
Hmm.
worked on by myself songwriting
Okay.
and then brought them to people.
Hmm.
People had people were able to listen to demos and learn songs, but then there were open sections in each of those songs for anything can happen.
Hmm. Fun.
So
Enough room for them to.
for sure, yeah.
Right.
So
Interesting.
that's one way. And then another way is like, I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Right.
I have this noise, or I have this sound, or I have this loop, or I have this like block of words, and let's see what
Mm,
happens.
mm,
So hopefully there's a balance between things that are sort of more immediate or composed written songs, and then some things that are just let's see what happens when we're together.
right. And has that been your mindset throughout your career as a songwriter? Like sometimes seeing where it goes, what happens, but also having that songwriting discipline where you're very structured and are looking to create a song.
Probably in the beginning it was like learning how to play Neil Young songs on a guitar,
Mm,
and then once you know four chords, you can write your own song. Um, and then punk, like playing in punk bands, was like we're all sort of coming up with parts together. It's more like doing math together,
mm,
with sort of like too much energy that you don't know how to deal with. So you're putting it into that music.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and then I don't know, it's not, and then it was like, well, I just want to be in the faces. I want to be in the Rolling Stones or the Faces, and let's try to do that.
mm,
And
mm,
then sort of it's like imitating at first without the skill to really sound like what you're imitating. And then
mm.
you find yourself in that. At least I
Okay.
I was able to like sort of find myself and then lose myself and then find myself and lose myself over the course of years
Mm,
in
mm,
music.
right. And but th- are there periods too when you just like what happens when you hit a wall when you're just like I don't know what to do anymore. Like that's an idea. I've done that. I've done this. I like what do you do when you hit walls in your songwriting process?
Stop. Like I do stop for periods of time.
Right.
Um, yeah, a lot of things I just throw in the garbage. A lot
Hmm,
of things are terrible from the
right.
get, and I throw them
Right.
in the garbage. So,
So you
um,
got to produce a lot of stuff. You're producing lots of stuff. Even like you don't stop
sometimes I'm
yourself from
producing a
yeah.
lot of stuff, and sometimes I'm doing nothing.
Hmm, hmm. It's just
Like sometimes I'm working on, like right now, I'm starting a job. So it's like I'm going to be like scoring a film.
hmm,
So now I'm getting ready to do that. So I'm writing pieces of music for this movie,
hmm,
right?
hmm.
I'm sure by the time I get to the end of this in a couple of months or however long it takes, I'll want to write some songs for
Okay.
me.
Right. Right.
But right now I'm working for somebody else, so it's not a matter of like it's just do the job.
Hmm,
What
hmm,
does this need? What's going to make this better? What's going to make this work?
hmm. Right.
So I
What
don't know. But
what's
there's
the
I
difference
take
between
years off Califone. I take years off writing songs. I don't sometimes I
right,
don't do it at all.
right? No, for sure. You've had some breaks between records for sure. I mean, one would have to like it seems like you put your heart and soul into all these records, and it must be exhausting at times. And then just the whole machinery of setting out a record and touring and podcasts and reviews and like videos, like it just seems like a tiring process that one would put themselves through.
Yeah, but what else are you going to do?
Right. Right scores.
Well, when that comes, I'll do it.
Right. Right. What's the difference though, Tim, between a song and a score? Like, do you approach them differently? Or are they do
Yeah.
you go in with like what would be the differences in your approach to those two?
Well, with scoring, it's like you're serving a story and you're serving a movie.
Hmm,
So it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with working at the top of my creativity, ideally, and what does this need, and what will help.
right,
What gets the point across, or what
right,
contrasts, or even what's going to make the people that I'm working for feel good about the film they made
Mm,
or feel better about the film they made. You know, it's like that. Working on Califone stuff, especially lyrically, it's so personal that I think it might be inaccessible to other people sometimes. You know,
mm,
that's I mean, that's like personal for me.
right, right. And did that take time to be able to reveal yourself to the world that way through your music?
It
Like,
doesn't feel revealing. It
hmm,
feels just like searching and finding, you
hmm,
know?
hmm,
Sometimes it feels physical, like searching and finding my body right now.
right.
You know, like how like what rhythm moves me, what you know,
Hmm,
what's a groove for me now as an old person, you
hmm,
know, because it's different than what's a groove when I was a young person.
right, right. Maybe an aging person, not an old person. We're
Maybe
aging. We're aging
maybe
people.
an aging like fine wine person.
So, two records you put out within since 2023. You had Villagers and then the Villagers Companion. Could you explain a little bit of the idea behind the Villagers Companion? What was that, just the stuff that you still really liked but didn't fit in the first? Can you kind of like what's the difference between Villagers and Villagers Companion?
Well, the companion is most of the songs didn't work in the sequence of villagers
Okay.
and put them down for a year ish and didn't really listen to them and then went, you know what, these should come out. And
Mm,
then a couple of the songs are things that um cover songs that made me want to write songs,
mm,
you know,
mm,
that were
right.
done back right when we were starting Villagers or even a little bit before.
Mm, mm. Like Crazy as a Loon is that one of your examples of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
That
cover?
one and Family Swan, the Mecca Normal song.
Right.
Like both those made me want to write some songs, even though I didn't do anything that sounds like those songs. Both of them made me want to write.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's I mean, some really amazing songs that but yeah, I often talk about the sequencing of the songs with artists and like how do you determine that? Like it's kind of like taking chapters and figuring out how to put the book together. How do you go about that process and what made the cut for what made the cut for Villagers and then what didn't make the cut, and like how did you weed through to decide that yeah, this will be the sequence I want to put these these songs here and we'll see about those down the road? Like how did you choose? What was it, just how the flow of it was?
Yeah. I mean, it's instinct and it's how it feels for you when you're listening to these things all together. Also, like I started playing the songs for friends and people that I love and trust,
Hmm,
and just getting their take on what was happening really
hmm,
helped like put that sequence together.
amazing. And what do you see as this package now? How do you see it? Like do you look at it as kind of two pieces that are siblings, I guess, or
Yeah,
they're related somehow? Like how do
totally
you
related. I
describe
mean,
that to? Yeah.
there are two records that go together. One is the mommy and one is the baby. I don't know. Um, it feels like Villagers is the thing,
Mm,
and the companion is like the process.
mm. Interesting.
And
Interesting.
sometimes it's really interesting to hear the process, and sometimes even if you don't even want to think about the process, I think some of those songs stand up on their own
Hmm.
and not they're outside of what the process or the story is. I think I mean the reason that we put it out is because it seems to stand on its own as an album.
Right. Yeah, totally. I just love it seems much silkier and finessed and massaged and smooth as a collection of songs from previous records anyway. um I just love the production of it. I think it's like so well done.
Thanks.
you feel the meticulous kind of like intensity that must have happened. So I can understand in a way where you're kind of like, okay, I've had enough of that. I don't want to listen to that anymore. I've deep brushed this. So it takes some, I guess, distance to kind of, but with the distance, does it add clarity to what you made, to what you created when you kind of look back on it?
I don't know about clarity, but it does feel like finishing a thought.
Hmm,
Feels like finishing an era and finishing a period of time.
right,
Sure.
right, yeah. And what are the next chapters look like for Califone? Like I know that you're doing a score and stuff, and hopefully you're going to be writing more. What does 2025 hold for your music that you create?
Probably, we're playing a show next weekend in Long Beach that's like a benefit for the uh for California fires, the LA fires.
Right, right,
Then we're going to the East Coast in May and playing some shows there. And then slowly getting into probably making a record.
right,
Slowly.
right. So the process is ongoing.
Hmm.
Amazing, amazing. And do you get as much joy as you did from it as you did when you were first beginning to now? Like, do you still get that same satisfaction and sense of accomplishment when you complete something, complete a project?
I don't know. I feel like I enjoy everything more now
Hmm,
because maybe I really appreciate being able to do it.
hmm,
I really enjoy the people that I'm playing with, and that's amazing, So
yeah.
it's a lot more joy now,
Hmm,
even if the music sounds like confusion and sorrow, it's a joy to play, and it's a joy to work with the people that I work with more than ever, because there's been times when it wasn't.
right, right.
And
That's
there's
amazing.
been times when I didn't really appreciate what I was able to do.
Hmm, right. Well, I will tell you, Tim, that you bring lots of joy, I'm sure, to me, I'll guarantee you that. But putting this music out, I'm sure, brings lots of joy to a lot of people out there.
I
Um,
hope so. Thank you.
I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and sharing some of your experiences and thoughts. I truly, really love this latest, the companion. I wish I could be in California to come and see you play, but if there's any listeners out there, you can go and see Califone play live. What an experience that will be. Pick up this record, encourage, support Califone in the ways that you can. Tim, again, thanks so much. This has been a real treat, and all the best with the score and all the new music to come that's just down the road.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.